Hello, everyone, and welcome back into episode number 10 of the Vultures Row podcast. The energy is a little bit different today as we have a brand new right tackle for the New York Jets. The Jets select Armand Membou, tackle out of Missouri. Fellas, how are we feeling this morning? Anyone
I,
can start.
I'm feeling fantastic, dude. We've been talking about Membou. This podcast, I feel like specifically, has been very pro Membou. And you know what, man? It was the responsible pick. We have our right tackle hole filled. Had we not done that, would have been a little bit more dicey today. So today we get to feel good. We get to go in, take a playmaker, maybe a safety, D tackle. Who the hell cares, man? We have our right tackle. We're good.
Pat?
I feel a great sense of joy and relief that they're finally putting a bow on this offensive line, which took 5 years to complete after Mike McCagnon just completely fucking ignored it, basically his whole tenure. So since 2019, like every year, top of our needs have been O-line. It took two GMs to do it and plugging away at it. So now we have 3 first rounders on the line, a high second rounder in Tittman, a premium free agent in Simpson. So I feel really good about it. And I'm really excited for today because of the way the board fell. I think that there was a lot of smoke screens. I think we all kind of, towards the end of the draft, leading up to the draft, it was pretty crazy. And we really didn't know which direction they were going to go, which was the beauty of it. But in the end, it came down to Warren versus Membou. Which was the lifelong conversation. And again, they took the positional value in the offensive line, and now we have an elite offensive line, and I'm very excited about that.
And it wasn't the sexy pick, I'll say that. This is the guy we all wanted, but for the people that don't or didn't want Membou, who now are kind of throwing a hissy fit, which is, it's all right. We wanted Warren, but we got Membou. There are ways that we can sell you on Membou. I will say yesterday when the Raiders picked Genty, it was a massive sigh of relief for me because that's honestly where I thought Membou was going to go, and I thought we were going to get stuck with someone else. I didn't even know if Warren was going to be there too. I didn't know if someone was going to trade up for him. And honestly, the board played out perfectly. Warren dropped to 14. We got our guy at 7, and we're going to break down a little bit more into like Membou's game. But I'm ecstatic. I know we're all happy, and I'm finally just so happy to put the offensive line to bed. That's what I'll leave it at.
Loveland wound up going over Warren too, which was one of my bold predictions. So
Pat I watched the draft with Pat. He looks at his phone. He gets the pick like tipped off for him on Twitter, and he goes oh, and he like looks at us. And I'm like, who the hell could this be? I have no idea. And then eventually they announced it's Loveland.
I had this evil look on my face that I was right. And honestly, like leading into it, I was like, I kind of really wanted Genty. Like I was,
you did. You were saying that.
I was like, let's just take him. I wanted chaos, and once he went past 5, and when you just get, when the guy's not going to be there, but it's a pick away, and you're just like, if he is, right? Like I was like, let's just see the cast. I wanted a playmaker like really bad in that regard, but again, it was a smart, logical thing to do to take Membou, and it's kudos to the new regime because it was just a smart thing to do at the end of the day.
Yeah, it was. You really can't go wrong, and that's why I think that at the end of the day, everyone should have like some sort of smile on their face. So let's kind of get into his physicals, his pros, his cons, what we can expect. Pat, I'll throw it to you to start. I know you're probably itching to give your opinion on this.
Yeah, well, look, I mean, I think we all know he's an athletic specimen, right? He's not like the ideal size for a tackle, but it's not the worst case in the world. He's a 3-year starter at right tackle. I like that he played right tackle, right? So he's sliding right into the position where he's comfortable at. I think that's where the Banks argument came in a little bit towards the end because I think that there was people saying, well, he has left tackle value, and you could switch him to right, but I like the fit better in terms of, the fact that he played and he's not changing a position. He's going to fit great in the zone scheme. And again, last year, not necessarily because of a lack of talent, but they were 23rd in pass block win rate and 29th in run block win rate. So it's not like saying like, is it too much, right? Is this just overkill on the offensive line? Like, no, they needed better protection. And on top of that, Morgan Moses left. Like, we had a glaring hole at right tackle. So I thought that if Mason Graham fell, he was going to be the pick, but and had he been the pick today, would have been a total nerve-wracking night, just knowing the glaring hole that would have had at right tackle. And quite frankly, the run on linemen in the first round last night, like towards really the back half, um, that really showed you like really the value of the position. And now there's really not the value's not there at 42. Like had they gone in a different direction, like I think the best tackle on the board right now is Ariante Ursi from Minnesota, and that might have been a reach at 42, and we would have been going into the night like just panicking. All right, this has to be a lineman. This has to be a lineman. Kind of like when Tippmann went, it was like it has to be a lineman. It has to be a lineman. Whereas now, there is a ton of playmakers on the board at tight end and at wide receiver. Like a lot of wide receivers fell. I don't want to say fell, but they didn't go in the first round, right? So I just think they're in a lot more flexible position going into tonight. Even at safety too, like there's some really good safeties on the board as well. Like, so I don't think it's necessarily a lock. They go wide receiver at 42, but again, bringing it back to Membou, like this just opens up a ton of opportunities for them. And they have a really elite O-line now. They're setting a tone with a really nasty run blocker, a guy who didn't give up a sack last year in over 400 pass snaps. And yeah, it's a great pick in my opinion.
How about you, Tony? What are you thinking?
Yeah, I mean, listen, it was a hole, and you fill it with a guy that has the potential to become one of the best right tackles in the NFL in a weak draft class, man. I mean, listen, it was all Tyler Warren. It was between these two guys, and Tyler Warren was the second tight end off the board, and we got what I think Will Campbell's a guard, so we got the best tackle in the draft. So, you know what? It just goes so under the radar that this guy runs a 4.9, and he's insanely athletic. And you know what? I saw some people in the media saying, he was a late riser throughout the process. He had a great combine. And it's like, okay, he also had 2.5 really, really good years of tape in the SEC. So he wasn't letting up sacks. He was a great run blocker. He has that nasty mentality that like John Simpson has that we sorely missed the past couple of years. He's just going to bring that whole new attitude to what already is a pretty well-built offensive line. He's the finishing piece, and he can really be a very, very, very good right tackle in this league. He already plays the position. There's no adjustment. He's going to slide right in. It's absolutely perfect. And to Pat's point, I mean, the board played out exactly like we wanted, right? It's, there weren't a ton of pass catchers taken. There's a lot of talent left on the board. Obviously, a lot of people are looking at Luther Burden. I don't know if he makes it to 42, but like the two Iowa State guys are there, Noel and Higgins. Besh is still there. Trey Harris is still there. There's more options, and there's no tackles left on the board, exactly like we were saying on this podcast the entire time. I mean, you need to take your offensive lineman early. The hole was too big. They were responsible, and it fed into the culture they're trying to build here, which is we're gonna punch you in the freaking mouth, and we're gonna win on the line of scrimmage. This is like when the Lions selected Panay to a lesser extent. He was a better tackle prospect, but I mean, when was the last time we had two like really good tackles? It was 2000, when we went on the runs in 2009, 2010, and these guys are 21 and 22 years old. So now you have the opportunity in like later drafts when John Simpson leaves, you can take a guard in the third round and be like, all right, we have a good foundation on the offensive line. He can slide in. That's when you start to get your starters in like the middle rounds because they're playing in between really, really good talent along the offensive line. And you can have fun with those top picks, right? You can take receivers, you can take tight ends. They were smart, they were responsible, and they're going to reap the benefits on day 2 and day 3 because we can go anywhere with this pick, man. If they don't take a pass catcher, it's like, okay, we need a pass catcher, but it's not the end of the world. You could maybe get, Kyle Williams in round 3. There's just so many options, and today's going to be the really fun day because we can take these playmakers in good faith, knowing Justin Fields is going to have a kick-ass offensive line in front of him.
And to touch on that, right? Odds are Fields isn't the quarterback of the future. I'm rooting for him to obviously be successful, but going into next year now, right? I know we don't want to look to the 2026 draft while the 2025 draft is happening, but this really sets up for like if next year they really go that high, they make their stamp, this regime makes their stamp at quarterback. you could feel really good knowing that the kid's going to have the protection that he needs, and he's coming into a foundation that's set up for him, like a Bo Nix, right? Like where he can come in right away and produce, right? So I think that it's just, again, for the regime who's making their first pick ever, new head coach, new GM, right? It's the safe thing to do to take a blue chip. I don't want to say blue chip, but
Close
because he's
to
a
it.
great tackle prospect. But I would probably say like Olu was probably a better last year than him.
Olu
But
was blue
again,
chip.
yeah, but again, a premium position, good tackle, like it's a safe move for them. Again, if I'm trying to, it's a conservative move, but a good one nonetheless. So,
And
yeah,
and you know what? He offers a little bit of a different skill set than Olu does on the left side. He's a little bit better in the run game. He has that. I feel like Olu's more finesse, while Membou is more like compacted. He's 6'3", 330 pounds, and he will drive you into the ground and, look at you. Like Connor Hughes tweeted very late last night that, someone described him as a scumbag in a good way. So it's like, these are
Never
the
heard
type of
that used in a
guys.
positive way, but sure. Yes, I did. I did see
I
that as
said a
well.
dirtbag. He said dirtbag, I should
Yeah,
say.
that's what it was. Yeah.
But
yeah.
that's
When you
that's
see
the
him,
type of attitude, man. Like that's what you want. Olu seems like a nice guy, like great pass protector. This guy has that like nasty mentality that you want on your right side.
Yeah, and to just kind of put a bow on this, and not a complete bow, because I know Pat was just about to jump in and say something, but I do think that the people freaking out about pass catchers, there's just too many options left. Like we got to the end of round one, and I was honestly pleased with the selection that we'll have at 42. So I would, to anyone that is freaking out about that, I would just say calm down. I do want to get in a little bit into some of what his cons are. Membou, that is. We know he's physical. We know he's been.
Oh,
We no, but I just, and I have to. You'll see. You'll see me bring it back around here.
yeah, I'm kidding.
So I mean, he is super explosive. He's super big. He's super physical, which is all great. The two things that I see a lot, and I wrote these down, was he needs more of a finisher's mentality. He doesn't really finish through the whistle. Okay, cool. We can coach something like that. That is not something where technique wise he struggles with. And then the other part was he struggles to anchor the edge because he's 330 pounds. Okay, so we know that prospects from college that come into the NFL, weight fluctuates. That how they play and their style is kind of determined by the head coach. So we will see that fixed. And I'm not really worried about any of his cons to a point where he's not going to be a good right tackle. His pros outweigh his cons. And for me, this is the safest pick the Jets could have made. I know we keep saying it, but I had one more. Yeah, here we go. Question for Pat. What would you, and both of you actually, what would you tell a Jets fan who is completely off board with this pick? Like, what you have to tell them one statement that to try to
yeah.
get them to on this side.
I think, look, if you want to be reasonable about this team this year, let's say you wanted the playmaker, right? And that's your argument. This is a run first team now. This isn't, Aaron Rodgers dropping back, throwing the ball 30 times a game, which, by the way, how did that work out, right? So I think drafting a playmaker, while it would have been exciting, is not going to be the mentality this year. It's going to be a run first team led by Justin Fields, led by probably Breece Hall, a la a committee, right? And if you want to be that run first, hit you in the mouth type of team, how are you going to do that? You need a good offensive line to do that. And I would tell you that also, to quote Jim Harbaugh, offensive linemen are weapons, right? So, this is another weapon for what the mentality that they're trying to bring and the attitude they're trying to bring to this team this year. And guess what? They're probably going to win more games than last year because they're going to be able to run the ball more efficiently. They're going to be able to control the clock. I think they're going to be better just organically from better coaching and situational stuff. So if they can run the ball efficiently, control the clock, play good defense, that's the style that we've seen be successful in the past for us. And the teams that were successful, those 2010 teams, the 2009-2010 team, they had a probably the best offensive line, if not a top 3 offensive line in football those years. So Aaron Glenn came out and said it yesterday. He's going to build his team inside and out in the trenches. And the best teams in the NFL, that's what they do, right? Eagles, the Lions, if you look, they're, yes, they have the playmakers, but it's the trenches is where they dominate, and they continue to address those positions, right? I think last night, again, the Eagles took Jack Campbell, but the Lions took a defensive lineman, right?
Tyleek Williams. They took Tyleek,
Tyleek,
their boy.
hitting the trenches, right? So, again, that would be my sell point too. And again, playmakers are also better when the people that are giving them the ball have more protection to do it. So, again, it takes all 11 to work, but it starts with on the offensive side of the ball. Yes, it starts with the quarterback, but it really starts with the offensive line.
Yeah, and want to what my number one sell point, and I think people forget this because we went in an all-in year last year, and want to what, man, this was a 5-win team. They won 5 games. Was it Aaron Rodgers? Was it the coaching? I don't know, but we won 5 games. And want to what? This is the first year of Aaron Glenn and Darren Muji. So everyone that's saying, "Oh, that's great. They're going to have all day to throw. Who are they throwing it to?" Rome was not built in one day, man. I mean, they're going to figure that stuff out. First of all, there's a lot of time left in this draft, right? We have, a round 2 pick, round 3. And after the draft, there's some wide receivers out there. But I feel like we're holding these guys to too high of a standard in year 1. It's like they can't fix every hole. They didn't want to spend money in free agency strategically this year, so they can, maybe have a little bit more flexibility next year. And they're filling out the premium positions this year so they can do that next year. Spend the money on receivers, draft tight ends, corners, safeties, whatever. So I just would preach patience with this regime, because while it was, there's a few talented players on the roster that are younger, like Sauce, Garrett, all these guys. It's still year 1 for these guys. They're trying to build out what they want to do, and we just have to give them the opportunity to do so. We can't be like, "Oh, great," like whatever. Because at the end of the day, if we took Tyler Warren, we'd all be sitting here saying, "Well, that's great. Who's playing right tackle?" Like, there was no winning here. We just went with the most responsible pick to build towards the future. This guy's going to be a core player for us. And at the end of the day, we're going to have 2 really good tackles for what hopefully is the next decade. And we won't have to worry about those positions. So to come in, and this is the first pick that they make, I love it. I absolutely love it. We've been talking about it here for weeks. And I would just say be patient, man. Let's see who they draft in round 2 before we're asking who they're throwing to, because I mean, yes, it's scary that we have Stone Smart and, Jeremy Ruckert starting at tight end, but we're not done. We could still make a trade for a veteran, and even if they don't, this is year 1. Let's not expect the Eagles roster in year 1 after winning 5 games. It's not going to happen. And all those good teams, like Pat said, they came in and they drafted offensive linemen, so then they can go out and draft Devonta Smith, draft Jamison Williams, draft Jahmyr Gibbs. Like, they already had their line set. They're not making those picks with a shaky offensive line. So now we have it set, and we can go out and do that. And that's what Aaron Glenn and Darren Muji are trying to do. And one what, man, when he said, "I want to build this thing from the inside out," in his post-draft presser, yeah, I felt something, man. It was awesome. It's like I've been waiting for a coach to say this for so long, and that's how I, prioritize, building a program out. Not that I'm a professional at it or anything, but that's how I always wanted to do it. And to hear them say that audibly, that was really nice to hear.
Touching on that point, right? Like Detroit, like when they came in and they were the bottom of the barrel team, right? Their first pick was Penei Sewell, right? Who,
yep,
I believe played right tackle, right? And still
he's a right
does,
tackle,
right? Yeah. So again, that was a tone-setting pick, and again, they didn't win 13 games the first year. It took time, but they look at them now. They built a sustainable winner. And last year, again, year 3, 4, whatever it is in their program, you hit the nail on the head, right? They started with the line. They already had a decent. It's kind of like us because they had some pieces, and then they added, their really elite piece. But then after that, they took the Jamison Williams. They took the Jahmyr Gibbs, right? Like that's really, again, and good credit to Aaron Glenn because he has the foundation. He's following the same footprint that he saw work
the right way.
He was in the building and saw how they did it. They took a bottom of the barrel franchise like Detroit prior to their success recently, even with Matthew Stafford and stuff like that. Like like when I was growing up, like they were embarrassing. So, you know, it's just the way to build it. It's just the way to build it. So
My biggest sell would be I think it's much easier to trade for a veteran pass catching tight end than it is for a stud tackle.
Doesn't
That's
happen.
it's
can you imagine if we didn't take
impossible.
like yes, and again, I know I'm like kind of repeating myself a little bit, but if we took a tight end or even a T tackle like yesterday, right? And I know I was saying Mason Graham and stuff, but man, like this would be almost like an emergency pot of like feeling that we need an offensive lineman today. And if Ariante Ursi goes before 42, right?
Ozzie Trapillo, that's who you're looking at
on the board. You're looking, like you might be like the value's not there at 42. So whereas now, and I'm sure we're going to touch on it in a minute here, like there's a lot of options for them.
Exactly. So that perfectly segues me into what I was going to say next. So I'm just going to read some top players on the board here. We still have a ton of wide receivers: Luther Burden, Jaden Higgins. We have Jalen Noel, like Tony said before. There's one of my favorite safeties still on the board, Nick Emanwari. We got Shador Sanders still on the board if we want to get into the quarterback conversation of it all. Will Johnson. So some of these guys have really, like, the board is plentiful here at 42, and obviously we still have some picks to get to 42. For me, what I'm looking at is pass catcher. I'm very keen on that. I would like to see a Higgins, a Noel, a Burden, or like a Mason Taylor at the 42 pick. That's where my head's at. Would I be mad if they went defense? No, because I love the safety out of South Carolina. But those are the guys that I'm really looking at heading into today. How about you, Pat?
Yeah, so look, we're picking 42, right? So, we're pretty early. There's at least 5 wide receivers that I would consider if, so going down the line here, right, at that 42 spot, Jaden Higgins, he's kind of like that Nico Collins type of player. Trey Harris from Ole Miss. Again, really great player. He's kind of like a Rashee Rice type, and I think he honestly
really
would have
good.
gone higher if he didn't have the injuries. Luther Burden, I'm not expecting to be there, but Yak Monster, like he would be awesome. He's a real playmaker that I'm super high on. Jalen Noel, obviously we talked about, again, another Iowa State guy. A little bit more, he's on the speed side. And then Jack Beck, who we all, a lot of us mock to him, probably more under the impression that wide receivers aren't going to be there. So I don't, we'll see what happens, how these wide receivers shake out. Again, it's not, just simple observation and deduction and stuff like that. It's not like everybody's going to be grabbing wide receivers with the first 5 picks, right? There's, again, Shador's on the board. Jalen Milroe's still on the board.
Will Johnson's
still on the board. Nick Emanwari is still on the board. Like, there's a lot of good players that are still at the top that I think I would say, conservatively speaking, like, you could be looking at one of those guys is at least going to be there. That outside of Beck, I would think. I think one of Noel, Trey Harris, or Jaden Higgins is going to be there for them. And if not, too, again, like, we're also talking about Mason Taylor and Elijah Arroyo here, right? So if we're talking pass catcher, like, there's really like 7 guys that I think could be in play at 42 if they go that route. I think again, they're in a really good position. Whereas, again, if we were looking at offensive linemen, it would have been a lot different.
Yeah, and a lot of these names, man, I get really excited about. I mean, in our mock draft here, it was, I believe I had Membou and Higgins. Higgins would be unbelievable. He's like, I feel like I don't know if he's going to make it to 42, but I mean, he's 6'5". Go up and get it. Great to pair with Garrett Wilson. Jalen Noel, very, very freakishly athletic receiver, a little smaller, like 5'11", but I mean, he's a freak. Trey Harris, obviously we're high on him as well. And I mean, Luther Burden, dude, if they can get Luther Burden at 42, or even if they trade up, this is becoming a slam dunk draft. I had like a round. I thought he was going to go in round 1 for sure.
I wouldn't even trade up for him though, because again, right, like we're 9 picks, right? And I'm just looking at the overall board now, right? Will Johnson, Mike Green, Nick Emanwari, Donovan Izakaru, Darius Alexander from Toledo. The running backs, by the way, we only had 2 go in the first round. Travion Henderson's still there. Quidshon, we're going to see a run on running backs here. Shador is obviously still on the board. And the Browns have 2 picks. The Browns and the Raiders all have 3 picks before. Like, there's 3 picks between them before us, right? So just knocking off the picks here, right? There's gonna be at least, I would say, our pick of the litter between three pass catchers, let's call it, right? You know,
And
so,
like Mason Taylor would be a fantastic pick too. We thought he was going to go end of round 1. He's still there. I don't think he's going to make it. I think I'm going to make a prediction. If he's there at 42, I think they take him. Really good pass catching tight end, can do it all. And want to what? If you walk away, like I just feel like the difference between Membou and a round 2 tackle, and let's just say they go Mason Taylor, the difference between Mason Taylor and Tyler Warren, I mean, you feel a lot better with the talent gap between the tight ends than the tackles, because you're looking at realistically round 3 guys right now. There was a huge run, and I love being a part of these runs, especially when you get like one of the top tier players. Like we started the offensive lineman run, we got probably we could argue the best one, and all this talent sitting here. I mean, this is going to be the best day of the draft because we got the boring part out of the way. For some, it's boring. For us, it was absolutely electric. Our group chat was very, very excited about an offensive lineman. But this is where it's going to be fun. Maybe we'll see a little bit of movement. And like you said, there's a lot of talent to push these pass catchers down. I think Shador is going to go to Cleveland with that first pick in the second round. So push that talent down, man, and let's just give them as many options as we can and see who they have at the top of their board. It's going to be very interesting. I feel like this draft has fallen exactly like they wanted it to. And what a way to kick off, a new regime in terms of, the draft. So very exciting. I'm juiced up today, and I have to work a full day of work today. I'm going to be like jumping around.
Yeah. The more I look at it a little bit, I'm sorry to cut you off, Joey, but like the more I look at it now on the board, I really think that if I had to make a educated guess, I think they're going to just hope that one of Elijah Royer or Mason Taylor is there.
Yeah.
Because after that, like, I'm not saying that it's not a good class, but because it's been renowned as a deep class, but I think there's a drop off after Arroyo and Taylor, because then it's Terrence Ferguson, Gunnar Helm. So just for reference, right? Like, I'm looking at the ESPN board. Mason Taylor's 41 overall ranked player, and Elijah Arroyo's overall ranked 36, right? Then Terrence Ferguson is 70th ranked, right? So there's a tier there at tight end that maybe they're hoping that they'll get one of those guys and then maybe dip back into wide receiver, hopefully, like, I don't think he'll fall, but like a Kyle Williams or
that'd be awesome.
Like a Alec Alamayor or Isaiah, I don't know, like one of those guys maybe in round 3, or they'll probably just go back to defense in round 3 and go the veteran route at wide receiver. But again, these are all the scenarios you can play.
Even like look at the board now, like there's some pretty good edge rushers still left, like Mike Green, you look at Swinson from LSU or Ezeraku from Boston College, who I've heard a ton of a buzz around as well. So like to you guys' points, there's a ton of talent on the board. I wouldn't be surprised if we get to pick 42 and we're sitting there with like 3 guys that we would all be content with. So I think today is going to be honestly one of the more fun days of the draft. I love day 2, especially when we have a good pick on day 1. So final predictions, gun to your head right now, who are you taking at 42? Who do you think is going to be there? Start with Pat and we'll go around.
I think they're going to go with, I think it's going to be Elijah Arroyo. That's what I would say. I think Mason Taylor's going to go before 42, and because I think he's just more of a complete tight end, like he's a little more of a blocker, and I think we just need more of the weapon than the blocker per se, because we have a good run blocker in Ruckert. So I'm going to say that Arroyo's the pick, because I think that there's a tier dip in tight end after that. The only thing I'm curious about is if one of these defensive players fall, like an edge rusher, or like if I don't think Will Johnson will be there, but like if he fell hypothetically, or
that'd
if Worry fell, right? Does Aaron Glenn put his defensive cap on and say he wants one of these guys? But my gut's telling me, the more I think about it, I think that it will be one of those 2 tight ends.
Yeah, I think Mason Taylor is going to go. I think Elijah Arroyo is going to be there, and I think they're going to take Jaden Higgins. I think that's the guy he was in my OG mock. I'm just going to stick with my guns here. Obviously, let the smoke get to my head a little bit. Bought into the Tyler Warren stuff, but I'm going to go Jaden Higgins. That's my guess, but wouldn't be shocked if it's Noel, Trey Harris, one of those guys.
Yeah, sound the alarm, right?
Sound the alarm.
I'll make it quick because that alarm. But I love Jaden Higgins, but for the sake of keeping it diverse here, I'm going to say Jalen Noel. Not my first choice, but I think that it's going to be some sort of pass catcher. Wouldn't be surprised if it was defense, like Pat said, but I think that's where they're going to land, somewhere in the tight end wide receiver realm. That's all we have today, I think, unless you guys have anything else before I close it out.
Yeah, I think you got to close it out because I think that fire alarm's in my apartment.
Absolutely. Thanks for listening, guys. We will keep pumping out the content for you. Go follow the Twitter at NYJ_Vultures Row, and we will talk to you soon. See you guys.